In this mini clip, we'll be discussing the transformation of the natural exponential function. While we answer this question together, you will be solving the similar problem on your own using the same technique. So we're asked to sketch the curve of y equals negative 4 e to the exponent negative 3x, beginning with the graph of y equals e to the exponent x. This graph has already been drawn for you on the right-hand side of your screen here. It's the graph of the natural exponential function. It has a y-intercept of 1 and has a shape like this. Now from this graph, we're going to apply our various transformations. The first transformation that we're going to consider is this 3 in front of the x. So we're going to have to draw another graph. Here we're going to draw y equals e to the exponent 3x. So you'll notice that this is also an exponential function. So it's going to have a very similar shape to the graph y equals e to the exponent x. The 3, however, will cause this graph to compress horizontally by a factor of 3. This means that our new graph will have the same y-intercept of 1, except we're going to have to draw this graph compressed horizontally, which means it will look something similar to this. We'll start along the bottom, and moving along, we're going to pass through the same y-intercept, but we're going to have to compress it horizontally by a factor of 3. I would now like you to try applying this first transformation to the question you are given. This is how your first graph should look like. So now coming back to the question we were working on, we're now going to apply our second transformation, the negative found in front of the 3x. So again, we're going to have to draw another graph. This time it will be of the graph y equals e to the exponent negative 3x. The only difference between these two graphs is this negative in front of the 3x here. So we're going to apply this transformation based on this graph here, since they're the exact same except for this negative. The negative in front of the 3x will actually cause the previous graph to reflect about the y-axis. In other words, we're going to take this graph and we're going to flip it from left to right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this graph on here, and I'm just going to flip it from left to right. Now we need to have the same y-intercept, so I need to shift this over so that it passes through the point 0, 1. So all we did was we reflected about the y-axis. I would now like you to try to apply this transformation to the question you are given. This is how your graph should look like. So now we're going to apply our third transformation, this 4. Again, we're going to have to draw another graph. So this will be the graph of y equals 4 e to the exponent negative 3x. Again, the only difference between these two graphs here is this 4. So we're going to apply this transformation based on our previous graph. The 4 will cause our graph of y equals e to the exponent negative 3x to stretch vertically by a factor of 4. So what we want to do is we want to multiply all our y values by 4. So here our y-intercept was 1. In our new graph, we need to multiply this number by 4. So our new y-intercept will be right here at the point 0, 4. All we're going to do is we're going to take all these y values and multiply them by 4. So our new graph will look something similar to this. Remember, it's just a sketch, so we want to be as accurate as we can, but we don't need to be entirely accurate. So we'll start here. And now we're going to pass through our new y-intercept. And we're going to move down. So again, this was stretched vertically by a factor of 4. I would now like you to apply this transformation to the question you are given. Here's how your graph should look. So now we're going to apply our fourth and final transformation. So once again, we need to draw a graph. So this will be the graph of y equals negative 4 e to the exponent negative 3x. The negative in front of the 4 will cause the previous graph to reflect about the x-axis. In other words, we want to multiply all these y values by negative 1. So here our y-intercept was 4. In our new graph, since we're multiplying by negative 1, our new y-intercept will be at the point 0, negative 4. Now we're going to flip this graph about the x-axis. So again, I'm going to redraw this graph on here. Okay, and then I'm just going to flip this from up to down. Again, our new y-intercept is 0, negative 4 at that point. So I now need to make sure this graph passes through that point. If I draw it like this, it does. And again, this will be reflected about the x-axis. So this is our final graph. I would now like you to draw the final graph in your question. And this here is how your final graph should look like.